Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. To start off with, I'd like to congratulate everyone who's come before me in succeeding in the biggest challenge of today, putting this mic on. Yeah, you have to push it and then clip it on. It's fine. I'm the last one to do it, so it's all good. So today we'll be speaking about the point of materialism is satisfying, the title of our wonderful speaker, Amy's speech. So speaking to Amy in our prep time, we both definitely agree that purchasing shiny new things is certainly very satisfying, and I'm sure in her speech she's going to help us talk through why we do have that mindset and why this actually is. So without further ado, let's give Amy a warm welcome.
Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was empty and formless, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And then God said, "Let there be plants and animals, towers and tools, clothes and cars, photocopiers and phones." And then God saw all that he had made, and it was good. And then there was evening, and then there was morning, the millionth day. The Beatles sang that money can't buy us love, and Jessie J confirmed we should forget about the price tag. After all, it ain't about the cha-ching, cha-ching. Sometimes it feels like the world is just full of ignorant pop stars, giving materialism a bad press while they scoop up the cash. In philosophical terms, many would define materialism as the belief that physical matter rules. But to most of us here today, it's probably the idea that your happiness and success is determined by your acquisition of possession. Look, I'm a material girl living in a material world, but I'm not selfish, superficial, or shallow. And I think I'm going to annoy the philosophical purists amongst you here today by redefining what materialism is. So, my fellow Black Friday fanatics, grab your bags and come with me as I prove to you it ain't about the blah bling blah bling, it's about the hoovers, hamsters, and homes. In 1908, an electric broomstick-like cleaner with a cloth filter and a dust collection bag attached to the long handle, a Model O Hoover was launched for $60, which is about $2,000 in today's money. Now, this Hoover provided the spark to ignite a revolution in household technology, therefore also providing the fuel for women's liberation. In 1916, the washing machine. In 1918, the fridge. And in 1947, the freezer. These inventions changed women's lives. Research, which was conducted in the United States in the 1940s, showed that women who spent their time loading their stoves with coal could save 30 minutes a day by switching to an electric one. The result? Women flooded the workforce. In 1900, only 5% of married women had paying jobs, but by 1980, this number had jumped to 51%. Quite simply proving that inventions lead to products, adverts lead to purchases, and for women, consumerism leads to liberation. Now, I know there are many other factors to consider in between, such as the sexist portrayal of women in practically any advert made within the last century, or the fact that at the root of these purchases often lies a desire for one to display their socio-economic superiority over others in a warringly capitalist sort of way. But there is also a sense of women becoming empowered shoppers and their role within the economy becoming more explicitly evident, even if many of us do still have to put in the double shift. From hoovers to hamsters. Let me take you back to March 2020. Don't worry, I'm not going to inflict Boris Johnson or coronavirus on you. It's a week before lockdown and our nightly news bulletins are filled with images of shoppers, both young and old, staggering out of supermarkets with a poopageddon of toilet roll tucked under their arms. It's the official collective now. I looked it up. Anyway, this is the moment where I heard my favorite word ever, the German word for panic buying, hamster kaufen, which quite literally means to buy like a hamster. Hamsters hoard, it's what they do. They carry food in their cheek pouches to their underground storage chambers. In fact, their stuffed cheeks can make their heads triple in size. But they're not the only animals which hoard. Woodpeckers, squirrels, leafcutter ants, even jaguars do it too. And also humans. But acquiring stuff is not a sin, nor is providing for our family. After all, we need clothes and food. We need a roof over our heads and a bed to sleep in. We need books and more books. And as human beings, we have the ability to appreciate the aesthetic beauty of works of art, to differentiate between Ben & Jerry's fish food and Tesco's value ice cream. Of course, it is important to recognise that there are limits to materialism. After all, we should never let our desire for things come in between our relationships, our health, or our integrity. But when pursued in moderation, materialism can be deeply satisfying and also deeply spiritual. Now, I only have about 30 seconds left, so quickly imagine your house for me. The television, the dining room table, the armchair. Material objects that all cost money. But all of these objects not only have a material value, but also a spiritual one, intrinsically bound to their physical form. The armchair is not just an armchair, but a place of comfort and familiarity. The dining table is not just a dining table, but a place to share and celebrate. And the television is not just a television, but a voice for the marginalized. We dismiss the value of the material at our peril, in our arrogance and ignorance. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a material girl and proud of it.
Thank you so much, Amy, for your wonderful speech. Now it's time for me to perform my rendition of Material Girl by Madonna. No, I'm joking. It's actually Ramya's turn to perform Price Tag by Jessie J. No, got you again. It's her turn to question Amy on her wonderful speech and help us to take a deeper look into some elements of it. So, Ramya?
Thank you, Lydie. Now, I'll be real here, Amy, I've never related more to a speech, and my mum can agree that when I was little, I would be obsessed with a toy that she bought for me for about a week, and then I'd go off it. So, would you say that it's materialism that's satisfying, or the idea of something being new that is satisfying to us?
I think when we're children, it's probably more the idea of something being new. But I'm kind of trying to look at materialism on a deeper level. I'm more going to, as an example of this, I'm going to draw a parallel to when a loved one passed away. We often keep mementos of things that remind us of them, that bring us comfort and closure about their passing. Therefore, we are being materialistic by keeping these objects. But there's a deeper spiritual meaning. Therefore, it's the materialism which is satisfying, probably for the majority of your life. Maybe in younger years, it is just the sense of being new. But it's also that sense of satisfaction at probably getting your way. So overall, materialism is satisfying.
You know, that analogy, it really helps me to understand the idea of spirituality behind certain objects. And also in your speech, you focused on the idea of liberating women through materialism and the idea of empowered shoppers. So do you think that the act of shopping is more satisfying than materialism itself?
I think there is a degree of satisfaction in all shopping, but I think that is mainly when you're purchasing luxury products. And I don't want materialism to be this thing which is only made for the rich. I think materialism is something which is accessible for anyone, because I believe personally that even when you buy your basic necessities, you will get a degree of satisfaction at knowing you are prepared for something that you need to have in your life. Therefore, the act of purchasing something is inherently satisfying, but it is also the act of the material products which is giving us the satisfaction and happiness.
You know, on the topic of empowered shoppers, the women, and materialism being associated with women, as you said in your speech, do you think that it's strategic of many brands to target their ad campaigns towards women?
I think that is a strategy used by adverts, but research that has been conducted in many years recently have actually found men to be more materialistic than women in many factors. But I would say there is a big push on the women market. I think that's generally down to them being possibly more products, as the beauty industry is so huge for women. However, the interesting part about that is within our society today, there is things like pink tax, and there's a gender pay gap, obviously. So I think it's quite interesting that maybe materialism isn't as accessible to women, but overall I think it's equally marketed as being satisfying for both men and women and all genders.
You know, one of my questions that I had on my page was about fueling the stereotype of the material girl. And I think you've just proved that it's, you know, equally men and women that can be drawn to these ad campaigns and can be materialistic. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of your speech when you talked about the beginnings of the earth, how God created the earth. And then TVs and fridges and everything in between. But would you say that materialism could stem from the human instinct that maybe perhaps the caveman had of possession and being territorial?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think I sort of touch on that with the hamster hoarding part. I think materialism, in a way, is ingrained with us as human beings and animals within the world. We all have this primal instinct to be prepared for situations and to gather stuff. For example, bears with hibernation, they collect their food and get a satisfaction from doing that. So in a way, the satisfaction that we get from materialism is this feeling that we chase as human beings. It's something that we have within us.
And, you know, my final question is, when I heard the title of the speech, I thought, oh, glorifying materialism could be somewhat controversial. And, you know, there is obviously the stereotype that it's a material girl. All that women like to do is shop. So do you think that by raising this topic in a forum like this can reclaim the controversy around materialism?
100%. I think as myself being a woman giving this speech, it does reclaim it in a way. And I also think touching on how materialism liberates women in the fact that it gives them more free time, it allows them to become more self-sufficient and be able to go out and achieve more as an individual, becoming less reliant on their male counterparts in the past has really been beneficial, and it has allowed me to be able to speak here today as a girl myself. So yeah.
Thank you, Amy, for letting me talk to you as a girl myself who loves shopping too.
Okay, so it's everyone's favourite time, audience question time. So if you'd like to raise your hand, and should we go to the back there? Yeah. Just here, this woman in.
Hi, my name's Rebecca. What is your opinion on the environmental impact of materialism? For instance, we buy clothes and then we throw them away and they dye jeans in rivers and poison fish. And we buy lots of phones, and batteries and electronics, and that all requires mining the minerals out, which destroys the environment as well.
While I do agree that fast fashion and mass production is quite a prevalent issue within our society today, obviously with the climate crisis, which was discussed in the last speech, I think we can advocate a more sustainable form of materialism, but I don't think that detracts from the satisfaction you get from gaining material things. As I said earlier, I think you can gain satisfaction from materialism from buying your basic necessities such as food and clothing, which we need. So we should make a conscious effort to be sustainable, but I don't think it differentiates if it's satisfying or not, basically.
Should we come here?
Yeah, thank you. You referenced the idea of capitalism leading to women's liberation, but when these women are being liberated not as women, but simply as members of the kind of ruling bourgeois class, does it really count as women's liberation? I mean, furthermore, when this liberation comes from the oppression of not only poorer women, but also poorer men under this materialistic capitalism, can you really claim this as a feminist ideal when it's leading to less equality in society overall?
I would argue that if we compare where we are at with sexism in today's world compared to 100 years ago, I would say that there are major advancements within it. For example, in the past, I probably wouldn't be allowed to do what I'm doing today. I think the idea I was trying to get at is materialism doesn't have to be about the material. It can be more. It's more than that. Therefore, the satisfaction for the women liberation comes from being able to be independent, being able to be self-sufficient. So while I understand your point, I do slightly disagree. I'm sorry.
So I think that's all we've got time for, unfortunately, everyone. So thank you, Amy, once again. So I'll just finish by saying a few words in summary. So Amy's speech focused in on how materialism itself isn't always about our own personal attachment to these objects, and that it's about what they represent, not what they are or their monetary value lots of the time. And I love the spin as well on how materialism actually liberates women. I mean, it's not your first thought, you know, with these gender stereotypes as well, people just thinking women, shopping, spending partners' money. But Amy really did such a great job on explaining really how it's actually so much more complex and intricate of an idea, and our audience questions also helped to take a deeper look into that. And that's the beauty of this competition. It's like what Lou was saying earlier, we all are dealing with such big topics and providing solutions and observations and innovating these new ideas surrounding them. And so to close, That is what it's for one has been a really enjoyable experience, but that has definitely tested me at times. I would just like to say for the last time this year, thank you to ESU for helping me and the other speakers and competitors for helping me to find my voice.